Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the final Study Abroad Campus Tour 2021 event. With us, we have today Joel Willans.
Ta-da! No, stop it. You're too kind. I haven't done anything yet, but thank you nonetheless.
He's the author and creator of the social media sensation Very Finnish Problems. And we have a very small live audience here with us today.
Woo! Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on. Nice.
And also the stream in Zoom. So Joel will talk to us about why it makes sense to study abroad.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kiitos paljon, and thank you all for coming, particularly in this hideous weather. So I was asked, actually, I think it was probably a couple of months ago, that I should come here and tell you all why you should study abroad. And when I heard this and November rocked up, it just struck me that like telling people to leave Finland in November should be a very, very easy sell. I mean, like as easy as maybe selling half a crate of beers on Vapor. I mean, you look outside and the weather is terrible, which makes it all the more appropriate that we are in a room called Mordor. I can't think of a less appropriate place than here for Mordor. We have yellow bean bags, we have sunshine. It's like a rainbow's exploded. I cannot imagine trolls in yellow bean bags. But nonetheless, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my experiences living abroad and the things I learned, the life lessons I learned, and the reasons I think each and every one of you should jump on a plane as soon as possible and head somewhere where there's ideally sunshine. So yeah, who am I? We've already had the introduction. As you may be aware, I'm the creator of Very Finnish Problems and Very Brexit Problems. Don't get me started on Brexit. I'll be here all day ranting about the idiocy of that, which goes totally in contrast to what you're all trying to do and potentially study abroad. I'm also the creative director of a content marketing agency called Ink Tank Media. And I've written some books, these bad boys, which are, you're probably familiar with Very Finnish Problems books, but also wrote a short story collection, Spellbound, 18 stories about the good and bad ways that women mess with men's heads. So it was, and a lot of those stories actually were written abroad. They're also written from the perspective of people in foreign countries. So, you know, potentially worth a look if you're looking for Christmas presents. All available from veryfinishproblems.com, along with other merchandise. But before I did any of this, I did lots of traveling and I lived in a variety of different places. I've been very blessed in my life, and I've had the opportunity to go probably about 60 countries: North America, South America, Central America, East Africa, Southeast Asia, Japan, Australasia, New Zealand. Fantastic, wonderful places, and been very fortunate to have that opportunity, and also had the opportunity to live in a variety of places other than Finland. This looks like Finland, but it's in fact Argentina. I think this is in Tanzania, this is Peru. Here's me in a silly bin bag in, I think, New Zealand, Thailand, and obviously Bolivia. So how did this happen? How did I get there? How did I get to these places? So it all started off here. This is where I am from. It's very much picture postcard, English countryside. It's called Suffolk, which is in East Anglia. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that part of the UK, but London is here, there's like a bump, like a belly, like a pregnant lady above London, and that's where I'm from. It's very much, as you can see, farming, countryside, very beautiful, picture postcard, cricket on the green. My playground was fields and farms, and I used to hang out with cows and stuff. So to give you an idea of like what the whole sort of milieu is like, my local football team is called Ipswich Town, who were once good, sadly now terrible, and their nickname are the Tractor Boys. So that gives you an idea of what it's like where I'm from. So I realized from quite an early age that I was not going to stay in Sudbury, even though it's beautiful, because it's beautiful but boring. And my father was in the Royal Navy and traveled a lot when he was younger around the world. And he's very much a combination of sort of like Indiana Jones, like Crocodile Dundee and Jack Sparrow, quite an intimidating role model as a young boy who liked to read and paint and stuff. But nonetheless, he told me lots about the world, and I really wanted to, you know, see what was out there. So first of all, I didn't go to another country to start with, but I did go to another world, and that was London, basically. basically, which was literally as different from where I came from as you could possibly imagine. Like Suffolk's one of the least densely populated parts of the UK, and London clearly very, very densely populated. So I went to University of Greenwich, which is here, and we have Canary Wharf in the background, and I worked in Oxford Circus in Soho. So I graduated I got a history degree, and rather than get a job, which I really wanted to avoid at all costs, I decided I wanted to go abroad and see another part of the world. And at that stage, when I made this decision, I'd broken up with my girlfriend, so I was a free spirit and I was ready to go out and see what the world had to offer. And a friend of mine had an uncle who lived in Canada, in British Columbia. So he said, let's join this BULNAC, which is the British University's North American club, and it allows you to go and study in old Empire Commonwealth countries for a year. So I decided, yeah, let's do that. And after university, I jumped to a plane and I landed here, which is Vancouver, which is an amazingly beautiful city. As you can see, mountains and skyscrapers, etc., etc. And I naturally assumed, actually, one of the reasons we went to British Columbia is because we thought we've come from the UK and it would be like sons from the mother country going to Canada, and it'd be very easy for us to get a job. But as soon as I got there, everyone would be going to me, I'd start speaking to them and they'd be like, well, what part of Australia are you from? And I'm like, I'm not from Australia, I'm from the UK. So they there was no benefit whatsoever being British, but I had some fun times there and I stayed there a year. And we'll get on to more details about that later. And then after leaving there, I would have stayed there if I could have found a Canadian girl to marry. So, sadly, I found some Canadian girls, but no one wanted to marry me. So then I went back to London, and this clearly isn't London, but I went back to London, and in London, I stayed there for a few years, and I met a Finnish girl in a club in South London. I was dancing, and she tapped me on the shoulder, turned around, and she said, buy me a beer. So very straightforward, very much to the point, beautiful blonde girl. I was like, yeah, go on then. So I bought her the beer, then we got together, ended up living with each other. I started working in publishing. She started working for an ad agency. We stayed like that for about 3 years. But then we got a bit disillusioned and we decided to go on this round the world trip. So we packed our bags and headed around the world for a year. We went Southeast Asia, Australasia, South America, followed the sun basically. And then, excuse me, after a year of following the sun, I specifically planned to come back to London and the UK in July in the summer. We touched down in Heathrow and the weather's exactly as it is today outside. Battleship grey, raining and drizzling. And I'm like, oh man, let's get some sunshine action. Let's go to Finland. So we went to Finland in July and it was the hottest summer in like 200 years. The sun was the color of your beanbags and it was glorious and the sky was blue. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Let's stay here. And everyone was like, no, Finland's not normally like this. I, being the eternal optimist, dismissed those concerns and moved to Finland because of the weather. So little did I know. So yeah, I lived here. And in fact, this was where my old office was until about 2 months ago here. And loved Helsinki, stayed here for about 3 years. Got really settled, then moved in, got married, then started working as an ad agency as a copywriter. Then I got bored and my wife got bored and we were like, let's have one last adventure before we have children. So we decided to then go to Peru, which was very different, as you can see from the other place I went to. It was in the Andes, 3,000 meters above sea level. Very isolated from the rest of the world, a place called Andahuaylas. Until about 10 years before we were there, it was like very much a headquarters for the Shining Path, like the Maoist rebels. So they used to like kidnap foreigners and shoot them. So not a place many Westerners have gone to for a while. So we were very much like an unusual sight. And we went there as an NGO. I went to go and teach English and art. So those are the places that I lived in. I also lived in Malaga and Barcelona for a few months, but the main place I lived in were Finland, Canada, and Peru. And in all those places, I learned some certain life lessons, which I think living abroad you gain rather than just traveling. I mean, traveling is fun and you get to experience cultures, but just by its very nature, it's transient and you don't really immerse yourself in the world and in the society and the culture. You don't necessarily meet as many people and you don't really sort of get the benefits, I think, you get from living abroad. So these are some of the life lessons that I learned whilst living away and still living abroad and still being a foreigner abroad. Now, I know like most people here probably have some familiarity with like the memes on Very Finished Problems. So I'm going to share these life lessons through the medium of memes to start with and some research and some quotes and stuff. So first of all, the very first life lesson I learned was it's wild hanging out in the wild. Now, I'm from the countryside, so I thought that I was quite clued up when it came to like nature. I mean, I used to hang out in the fields, I used to play in farms, but then when I first come to Finland, I realized that's not absolutely the case. So I went to a summer cottage and my wife was then my girlfriend. And she asked me, would you like to go fishing? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but when it comes to fishing, I'm a bit of a pro. So she hands me a fishing rod, which is basically just a stick with a line on. And we're standing on the pier and I'm there and she's here. And I'm standing here, nothing. She's like fish galore flying out. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Very, very good work. And then she's picking them out of the bucket. She's like, boom, boom. She's just smashing these fishes. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? She goes, we're going to eat them. And I'm like, what? Are you mad? Like, I used to catch fish all the time from rivers in Suffolk, but I never ate them. So then I realized, yeah, and then we're going to go pick some berries and eat some mushrooms. Like, whoa, it just totally blew my mind that people could live off the land like that. So I realized that, like, yeah, and I mean, one of the things I love about Finland is the fact that Finnish people are so at ease. They make the transition from city to forest so easily. So I really sort of was amazed by that expertise and that skill. And that was also reflected in when I was in Peru, where some of the kids who I used to teach, they would literally take me through the forest and they would point at the plant. I mean, they'd say to me, how many plants can you tell from your home country? I could name like 5. They'd go through the forest going, oh, that keeps the llamas, stops them getting headaches. This stops children getting like stomach ache. They were naming all the plants. They knew everything about all the plants, all the animals, all the fauna, everything there. And it just really struck me that I would never have realized how in tune people were with the wild unless I traveled abroad. And particularly when I considered myself very much a countryman. But no, these people were far more countrified than me. So yeah, and as you see, because I know we're in academia here, a little bit of research there, just to prove that hanging out in the wilderness is good for you. And just to underline that, John Muir, he was a Scottish-American bloke who set up the parks in the national park system in the US. I go into the forest, I go to lose my mind and find myself. Beautifully done, John. So I really think like going abroad, no matter where you go, the wildlife and the nature is going to be different. And you're going to get a far greater insight into that than you would if you just traveled there. So that is number one. Number 2, you'll always win with sports. As I said, I'm a football fan and I played football. I'm terrible. I played football for my school, but my school was so small that literally the only criteria to play football was to be a boy and have 2 legs. So anyone could have made the team and I made it. But when I first arrived in Canada, I was walking to my apartment and it was in quite a dodgy part of Vancouver because we couldn't afford anything special. And I was walking along like the pavement. It was on a hill. And I looked out over the fields and there was a football game going on. And I was watching, I was like, wow, they're really good. They're really talented. So I sat on this bench watching and then it struck me that they all had long hair. And this was like the late 90s. And I was thinking, that's so weird. Maybe in Canada, like football's just like a sort of hippie game. I know you like hippies that play football. Because like late 90s in the UK, everyone was like a raver. It was all like train spotting, shaved head. So I went to go further investigate, and the closer I got, I realized that it was all girls. Like in North America, football is predominantly a ladies' game, and they're super talented and very good. And after watching that, became a fan of ladies' football. So that's something I would never have experienced if I hadn't have gone to Canada. I hadn't have realized the scope of a sport that I love dearly, very different in a very different place. When I was in Finland, it's not just like watching sport and getting involved in sport. It was also like skiing. For me, when I came here as an Englishman, I was absolutely shocking at skiing. I mean, it's very rare to find English people who can ski, unless you're bourgeois middle class. So my father-in-law said, don't worry, Joel, I will teach you how to ski. And he's brilliant. He's like, the whole family's amazing. So they took me to this place in Tampere. I thought it was going to be a small hill. He said it's a small hill. To me, it looked like Mount Everest. I was like, there's no way I'm going up there. Now I go back, it is quite a small hill. So I get up there and he's like, yeah, left, right. And I'm panicking. He's like, no, left, right. And I'm panicking. I can't tell my left or right, straight in the forest, in the fence, collapsing, in pain. I'm like, screw this. I'm not doing skiing. I'll do skiing down there. So I went down to the bottom bit where the kids were. And I get on the ski lift, and there's like me like that. There's like little kids in front of me, little kids behind me, hanging out, all looking up. What is he doing? And I go up on the ski lift. I start to wobble, and then bang, fall over. And I lay down, and I look up, and there's like circle of little blonde faces just looking down at me. And I'm like, oh shit. And they're like, England line and me. And it was like cracking up laughing. It's like, right, that's it. I'm not doing skiing anymore. I was humiliated by my father-in-law. I was humiliated by children. So I didn't do skiing anymore until a couple of years later. And my wife says to me, look, let's give it one last go. So we went to another Mount Everest near Sipple. And we get there. And as we're driving into the car park, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go. I really don't want to go. I really don't want to go. She goes, don't worry, it'll be fine. It'll be brilliant. We'll get like a person to teach you. And my daughter was there. Well, she's like 3. We'll teach you together. And I get there, pull into the parking space. And the first thing I see is a bloke being wheeled out to an ambulance in a neck brace. I'm like, no, I told you. That's Michael Schumacher style. I told you. So I was really, really furious, suspecting I was going to die. Happily, I had a very talented teacher, and he trained me. And now, I'm no James Bond, but I don't look totally pants when I go down the slope. So once again, I would never have learned to ski, and I would never appreciate the fact that women are brilliant footballers unless I'd gone abroad. Mae West, she may not be talking about football or skiing in this, but yeah, the score never interested me, only the game. So, number 3. Excuse me. Food is a recipe for fun. So I think, yeah, of course, when you go traveling, you get to experience new foods. You go to restaurants and you're like a tourist. You go to these, but you don't get to typically experience like home cooked food and home cooked recipes. And you don't typically get invited to places with people who live there. So when I was in Peru, it very quickly, the fact that I was the only gringo in the village, along with my wife, we stood out very, very much. They used to call me El Alto, which is the tall one. I was like, I'm not even that tall, but I towered above everyone else. And we were a little bit like Posh and Becks, in the sense that we were like the only gringos in town. So we got invited to all the parties, and we got invited to get for meals all the time. And in this part of Peru, they're very much into koi, which is basically guinea pig. It's really full of nutrition, and they have guinea pigs running around everywhere. It's a sign of prosperity, the amount of guinea pigs you have in your house. And they eat the guinea pigs in these festive occasions. And I soon grew to really, really not want to be invited to birthday parties, because every time they would then bring out a platter of guinea pig on rice. And the thing about guinea pig, much like probably most animals that you're not used to eating, it tastes exactly like chicken, but with teeth. So I learned to eat koi in Peru. And as a result of that, I think they appreciated the fact that I was, I was enjoying their national dish. I also got the opportunity very early on when I was in Finland to experience the joys of lohileipä. So I don't know if anyone's had the pleasure, but lohileipä is basically salmon on bread. And it's quite, I mean, I like salmon. I've got nothing against it, big fan. But I got taken to a favorite auntie who said to me, who was renowned for being very careful with money. And apparently her lohileipä would be in the fridge for like weeks on end. I didn't know this, and no one told me this. So when I was presented with this lohileipä, I remember taking it and I ate it, and it sort of slid up and down my gullet because it was so slimy and foul. And then when she came round again, asking if I'd like any more, I was like, yes, of course, thank you very much. Because my innate English politeness meant I could not resist. And so I ended up eating far more lohileipä than I ever could have imagined. And sadly got scarred by that experience. So those are two things that don't sound very positive, but nonetheless, I got the opportunity to experience the culture a lot more by eating basically giant rats and slimy fish. So if you get the opportunity, those are sort of things you probably wouldn't get if you were traveling. So food is, here is another quote that I love. To eat well in England, you should have breakfast 3 times a day. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. Okie dokie, so we are flying. So every day, number 4, excuse me, everyday life can be far from everyday. For me, this is one of the great reasons, this is one of the most important reasons to go abroad, because, and one of the reasons I used to love going away and love just traveling, because the mundane becomes a challenge. Like the longer you stay anywhere, then, you know, things become, you get a grip on everything. And you get a grip on everything, and things, let's face it, things can become a bit tedious. But when you go abroad and when you live somewhere else, and when you're not when you're just passing through, but when you actually, you have to go to the post office or you have to go to the shop, then things can take very much a more dramatic and adventurous. Everything becomes an adventure, basically. So, I mean, this is a good example. This is actually sent to me from my English mate, Robin. Gave him credit there, big heart. And when a foreigner tries to open Finnish milk. So yeah, he sent me this because he was tussling with Finnish milk. And for all of you who've, you know, ever gone to the Finnish supermarket for that first time, you probably all remember that first time you went to the supermarket, you went to buy milk, and there before you, there's like a million different options, and you have no idea which one is milk. It's like, I've never been to a country with so many dairy products that look exactly the same, with slight different color coding and maybe a different font on the writing. So yeah, for me that happened. I mean, I remember first going to get some milk and coming back and pouring it, just slopped out, and I was like, what is this disgusting slop? It's off Pima. We've all done that. And then going to buy cherry ice cream, coming back, oh, lovely, cherry ice cream, taking a big mouthful. I was like, what is that? Salmiakki. So like all those things that like, yeah, those everyday challenges are something like, you know, when you go abroad, you have to deal with these things, otherwise you starve. You have to go to places and deal with everyday life. I think for me, that was certainly something I really enjoy. And, you know, that happened for me in Finland. It would happen in Peru. It happened everywhere. In Peru, I'd go to the shop. I mean, literally just leaving my apartment to go anywhere in this little village. I could walk 10 meters and I'd be followed by like 10 of my kids. Professor, they all knew me from when I was teaching, and they would just come chasing after me. They'd just follow me around. I'd go to a shop. And like I've been to shops where they turn on the music and people would start dancing with me. All I wanted was a newspaper, and it's just like every single thing became this huge challenge, and you know, you never knew what was going to happen. So on the one hand, that is a wonderful thing. On the other hand, it can get a bit tiring, but what it does guarantee is that every day is entertaining and fun. And for those of you who've come here from other countries, then you know you experience that already. So Finnish people who want to go abroad, I absolutely, recommend going and trying to buy different food from different places. Okie dokie, yeah. So another great quote: "Smooth sea never made a skilled sailor." And I think in Finland, I think as much as I love Finland, I think it's absolutely the case that everything's so well functioning, everything works so perfectly. The Finnish people do, I don't want to talk about it, generalize about the entire nation, although I do that all the time. Finnish people have such a well-functioning society that they find it very difficult to deal with things when they don't go perfectly right. I mean, I've had people when I've gone on work trips come downstairs complaining, like quite furiously, about how high their pillows are. It's like, or how soft they are. So I think it's good. And I would recommend anyone, I mean, we're all privileged to be in the situations we're in. Anyone who's like, if you're born in the Nordic countries, you're one of the most privileged people on earth anyway. So go somewhere else, check out how other people live and realize how lucky you are. And then you may become that skilled sailor. So what number is that? Number 4. Okay, number 5. You make friends in the strangest places. So it's so weird, like it's such a cliche, but I did make my first Finnish friend in the sauna. It's like, a sauna for probably most people outside of the Nordic countries is something that can be filled with trepidation, especially your first time. I was not used to going in a sweaty room with naked men. I mean, at school, and even if I wouldn't be talking about that on Zoom. So, but at school, we'd have like showers, we'd naked, everyone in and out very swiftly. But I went to a wedding and there was a sauna for the groom. And I went in there. I was the only foreigner there, full of English blokes. Sat on the top bench. That was my first mistake. Sat on the top bench and and the bloke next to me I got chatting with. And it's the first time I've ever had a conversation with another naked male, thighs rubbing, sweaty, and it felt strange, but nonetheless, we became good friends, and he's still, still one of my best Finnish friends. In Canada, I was at a bus stop. I've been clubbing, and it was about 3:30 in the morning. Probably raining, always raining in Vancouver, and a guy standing next to me. He's like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Sudbury." And he's like, "Get out of town, dude. I'm from Sudbury." I was like, "Mate, there's no way you're from Sudbury." And it turned out he was from Sudbury, Ontario, which is a big mining town in Canada. I'm from Sudbury, Suffolk. His Sudbury was named after my Sudbury. And as a result of that, we struck up a friendship. We did some he was very much into doing like really spur of the moment adventures. Like once, he said to me, "Have you ever ridden a train before?" Which I was like, "Well, yeah, I've ridden a train." "Have you ever ridden a cargo train?" I was like, "No." So like 4 o'clock one morning, we jumped on this train and we're sitting there, we're quite wasted. And it's going through the forest. I was like, "This is so cool." It's like, we're like hobos going through the forest. And I turned to him and said, "Glenn, where does this train stop?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think it stops in Alaska." I was like, "Mate, we probably need to get off here because that's a long old way and we're going to freeze to death." So we spent the next hour trying to find an appropriate place to jump off. But nonetheless, as a result of, my sort of adventures with Glenn, great guy, still friendly with him. He now lives in New Zealand. Once again, a friend I would never have made unless I had gone abroad and lived in that place. So, and then another person I'm very friendly with from Peru, Alexito. I met him in very bizarre circumstances in Peru. Typically, where I lived, the public transport it can be challenging. The roads are terrible. Buses regularly fall off cliffs and they get people all dying. So it's a bit nerve-wracking going from anywhere. So they have like these buses, little minivans or cars called colectivos, where basically it's a bloke driving and they just pile in as many people as possible to get from A to B. So on this particular occasion, I think I've been to a party or something, and there was no room in the collectivo, but the collectivo driver said, "Don't worry, you can get in the boot." I'm like, "Man, really?" So I get in the boot, and inside the boot, there's already another bloke. So there's me and a stranger in the boot and they close. It felt a little bit like being kidnapped. But you know what? You cannot be in the boot of a car with someone and not strike up a conversation. You know, for me, that's just rude. So we started chatting, and I think my first question to him was like, "How long do you think we're going to be in the boot together?" Happily, it wasn't so long, but yeah, after that, you know, we started chatting and we became firm friends. So sauna, bus stop, and then train, and in the boot of a car are all places that if I was in the UK, I would probably, or bus stop maybe, but I probably would not have made friends. So yeah, you make friends in the strangest of places. I like this quote, Robbie Louis Stevenson, bloke who wrote Treasure Island. A friend is a gift you give yourself. So you should all have as many friends as possible. And I think the thing about going abroad is like you just meet different types of friends. I mean, inevitably, if I'd have stayed in Suffolk, and some of my friends did, then their circle of friends is a lot smaller and their life experience is a lot less colourful as a result. So how are we doing? Number 6. Oh yeah, so yeah, this is so no is forever. And I think, yeah, in most cases, I would absolutely not recommend saying no. Unless, of course, you're in an elevator, in which case you don't ever speak to anyone, obviously. But I think this is like, it's a bit trite to say always say yes to things and always grasp opportunities, because, you know, there are real world things that get in the way with that. But I've had so many times where I've been places. For example, when I was in Canada, I lived in Vancouver for a year, and every single weekend, my Canadian mates would say to me, "Why are you going to hockey? Why don't you go and watch the ice hockey with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not really into ice hockey. I'm not ice hockey. I'd like to watch it, but I'd go next week." And I never ever went to ice hockey in Canada, which is amazing ice hockey. So the first time I ever went to watch ice hockey was in Dunbar to see Dunbar play. It was a very different ball game for NHL. And I remember it was 0-0. It must be like the only ice hockey match ever where it's been 0-0. And I sort of really regret that. And I also regret not going to Banff, which is an amazing ski resort in Canada. In Peru, I had the opportunity to go to the Amazon. I didn't go to the Amazon, so I'll go next time I go to Peru. Never been to Peru since. When I took one of my breaks from Peru, I went to the Bay Islands in Honduras. And I used to like diving. I like diving. Since I've had children, diving is coming. But yeah, I went diving, and I've been diving at every like 2 or 3 times a day. It's quite a party island, so you dive in the morning, and in the evening you party and stuff. And that particular day, that evening, I'd gone out quite late, and we used to dive about 9 in the morning. And I got up and had a terrible hangover. I felt like shit. And like my wife's like, "Let's go diving." I was like, "Oh no, I can't bother. No, I don't want to do it." And then all the people we dived with came back. They said, "Oh, you won't believe we were out there, and a pod of 30 dolphins came, and they swam with us, and they were diving with us." And I was like, "No." And to this day, like 10, 12 years later, my wife's still banging on about the fact that I denied.
Joe, sorry, we lost the stream a couple of minutes back. So.
All right, okay, cool. You lost my dolphin. Not cool, actually. You lost my dolphin story. Doesn't matter. Should I carry on regardless?
We can continue in about a couple of minutes, but if you want to just keep talking to the audience, that's fine by us. But we'll be live soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically, I lost the opportunity to see dolphins, and that was, really because I said no. And I think, you're in a situation where if I were you, I'd be on the plane tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It's like, sadly, my life is now, I'm very blessed. I've had a very nice life. It's fantastic. Children, and now I've got a dog. So it means my flexibility in traveling has been much diminished. So I would absolutely take the opportunities you have, because, you never know when you're going to do these things again. I always thought I'd have opportunities to do all the things I said no to, because I've been very blessed and very lucky, and there was no reason why I couldn't go back to Canada, no reason why I couldn't go back to Peru, no reason why I couldn't dive with dolphins. And not once did that opportunity arise again. So it may arise in the future, but even if it does, it'll be a very different experience from the one I would have had if I'd have merely said yes. So, yeah, if you get this opportunity, I know when this was discussed about talking about this, they were saying, I was asked, well, why do people not go? Why would you not go? And the people were saying, oh yeah, people may have boyfriends or girlfriends, or they may have a job, or maybe nervous and maybe settled. You've got the rest of your lives to have that. I'm telling you, you've got the rest of your lives to have. I had a girlfriend before I went to Canada. Sadly, we split up, but I was massively loved up with her. But sadly, we split up. I do not regret that for a second. And if I had the opportunity again, I'd do exactly the same. I had a great job. When I left my job in London, everyone was saying, you're stupid to go traveling. Why would you go traveling? You've got this amazing career. I was the youngest sales manager in the company. Things were going brilliant. Best thing I ever did was ditch that job. So I would absolutely, 100% say that if you have the opportunity to go, you should definitely go. And don't do the no thing. Okay, so number 6, no is forever. It sounds like a Bond movie. No is forever. So Steve Jobs here. Always thought Steve Jobs was a bit of a dick personally, but this is a quote worth looking at. I mean, quite dark, but he made a good point. And I think to me, as I get increasingly old, and getting old does come very quickly. Whilst I was looking at photos for this presentation, I was like, wow. How can that be 20 years ago? Because I remember that very clearly. So yeah, time really does fly. And I don't want to get morbid, but like once you hit start of 40, you do start thinking about like, once you get middle age, you start thinking, okay, yeah, I could be dying soon. So remembering that I'll be dead soon, and soon for people your age, you're probably thinking, oh, I've got loads of time. You haven't got loads of time. If I had the chance now, I would take all the opportunities you can. Sound like your dad, don't I? I don't know, do I? So yeah, when people party, number 7, when people party, you learn lots. This isn't me, I hasten to add. But yeah, when you arrive at summer cottage and it's not raining, hurrah. So of course, in every single one, every country on earth, people party and we all have fun. But absolutely, in my experience, partying in different countries is totally different when you live there than it is if you stay in your own country. And I've had some amazingly fun times where, my first experience of coming to Finland was for the party of the 80th birthday party of my girlfriend, now wife's granddad, which doesn't sound like 80th birthday party of a granddad, doesn't sound like it's going to be that kicking. But it was my first experience of Finland, my very first visit. And in those days, you had to it was really expensive to fly here. So I got a plane, and I got a plane to Stockholm, and I got a boat to Turku. And then from Turku, I got a train to, I think, Helsinki, then I got a bus. And the party was in the east of Finland, near Savonlinna. So I get there, I'm full of trepidation. I've not met any of the family before, and there's going to be the whole extended family there. And I arrive at this old farmhouse. It's a beautiful day, blue skies, sunshine, those perfect, beautiful summer days that Finland has. And I get out of the car and there's 100 blonde people. And I'm like, whoa, this is quite intimidating. But they were I started speaking to my uncle's brother and sister, very friendly. And I started to settle down. And it was all going cool, had a few beers. And then someone said, right, let's go and have a swim in the lake. And I was like, yeah, fantastic. Let's go and swim in the lake. And then someone said, before that, let's do sauna. I was like, wow, cool. And I get down there, everyone strips off. 100 people go naked simultaneously. Like, whoa, literally just met you. So that was a real baptism of fire for me, and something that's really seared into my brain. But nonetheless, as a result of mass nudity with the extended family, we really bonded quite quickly. So there was that, once again, something that would never happen in the UK. And and partying in Peru, for example, we had, where I lived in Peru under Willans, they were very proud of the fact that they were not Incas, or they were not related in any ways to the Incas. Their culture were called the Chancas, and the Chancas and the Incas hated each other. And every year, the town I lived in celebrated this mock battle between the Chancas and the Incas, where they'd go to some ruins and they'd fight each other, they'd dress up, thousands of people would come from all over. And on this particular occasion, we went as well. And I was with my friends, actually, from the UK as well. And there was a radio journalist there. And they saw us because we were always very much standing out because we were the only non-Peruvians. And my wife's got like white blonde hair, so she really stood out. And this radio journalist came to interview us. And my wife, and he said, "Oh, who are you?" And my wife jokingly said, "Oh, yeah, I'm the ambassador of Finland." And then the interview carried on. And about 15 minutes later, we hear over the tannoy, "And today we're happy to welcome the ambassador of Finland here." And it was like, whoa, like 5,000 people cheering and clapping. I was like, "What have you done?" Next thing I know, we're called down by the chief of police. We're driven around. We're given the total like red carpet service. After that, the chief of police, he's like my best mate, basically. And it took me about a month to say to him, "She's not really the ambassador of Finland." But nonetheless, yeah, we got like treated in a very different way. And yeah, it's not very places you get the opportunity to say you're the ambassador of Finland and get believed. So that was like certainly gave us the opportunity to learn more about Peruvian culture. Okay, so it's number 7. Oh yeah, a bit of Catherine Hepburn. If you obey all the rules, you miss all the fun. Brilliant. Cool. Okay, language. A few words make a big difference. Now, I presume all of you here are probably like bilingual, trilingual. My Finnish is still quite poor. And yeah, it's like I've mastered skiing. So that was one thing that I was regularly humiliated at. And my Finnish is not as good as it should be, sadly. I actually thought having children would really help, that they would encourage me and support me on my journey to Finnish fluency. Sadly, they're my harshest critics. And whenever I try and speak Finnish, they're like, "Issa, will you please shut up? Your accent is so bad and you're so embarrassing. I can't bear to bring my friends around." So needless to say, I've had quite a few embarrassing experiences with the Finnish language. My very first one actually was with Auntie Ulukka, the same lady we talked about earlier, who almost poisoned me with a lohileipä. We'd gone back to hers. This time I was a little bit more prepared, and she'd made a chocky cake, and I really wanted to dazzle her with my Finnish progression and the way I've been learning language and immersing myself. And so rather than saying "Tämä on hyvä kakku," I said "Tämä on hyvä kakka." Just like, and she looked at me strangely and then walked away very quickly. And I couldn't understand why the entire table was laughing. I was expecting applause, but no, it was like, it was silence or laughter from the younger parts of the family. So yeah, my adventures with Finnish, they are numerous, and it pains me no end that I'm still so terrible. Of course, I don't want to blame the entire Finnish nation for my own inadequacies, but if you didn't all speak such brilliant English, then I'm sure I would be far more fluent. And that's what happened when I was in Peru. I mean, when I went to the Andes, like nobody spoke English. And in fact, they thought to start with that I was some deaf mute idiot because my Spanish was, I never spoke Spanish. It was so poor. I'd say a couple of words and then and then they were like, "Do they not speak Spanish in your country?" And I'm like, no, they thought they were the only 2 languages, either Spanish or Quechua, in the entire world. And the fact that I couldn't communicate in any way meant I was just some total idiot. So nonetheless, as a result of that, I massively persevered with Spanish. I really immersed myself in it. And I became, pretty much fluent in a year or so. And of course, all those things, languages is something when you go away, inevitably, you're going to pick up a few words and it makes a world of difference. He says, talking in English whilst in Finland. So yeah, learning languages, but you know that of course anyway. So anyone can speak troll. All you have to do is point and grunt. That was basically me in Peru for the first 3 months. Hence the idiot. Or is he estupido? But I thought it was appropriate as well. We're in the Mordor room. So, it's speaking troll. Although I really cannot imagine a Tolkien troll lounging in a sunshine yellow beanbag. Okay. What are we up to? Number 9. This is so apt for today. The more sunshine, the better. It's so ironic. And I still cannot believe this is what love does. I never expected to live in a country where the weather was even worse than the UK. Of course, you know, there are many things. Like Finnish summer is amazing. I love this summer. I know global climate crisis. We're all screwed. But nonetheless, it's nice to be. I like sunshine. My entire childhood, we'd go to south of France, Spain, the Greek islands. My parents are both sun worshippers. We'd always be on beaches. My sister lives in Austin in Texas. My mum lives in Andalusia in Spain. My dad's still in the UK. All my family went to hot places. I come to the far north, all because of love. There you go, big heart. So, but nonetheless, you know, and this is one of the reasons I hate Brexit so much, not just because I'm a massive Europhile and the whole European project makes absolute sense to me in terms of just like, you know, 2,000 years of perpetual war, not had that. So, because I planned, you know, to move to Spain or Portugal later on and just like live some of my life there. But that sort of screwed it up. But nonetheless, the more sunshine, the better. You, every single one of you, almost, has the opportunity to get on a plane and head to the sunshine place. Go somewhere where the sun is shining and, you know, there's no clouds, there's no darkness, there's no Mordor-like weather, which you're experiencing outside of this place called Mordor. So, and I've just seen that so spectacularly wherever I've lived. Like, of course, Finland, we know what weather does to Finnish people. We know what it's like in November. I just invested in a sun lamp for the first time ever because November, I cannot stand it. It just drives me up the wall. But like summer here is beautiful and everyone's loving it. But in Peru, it's like literally, we're 3,000 meters above sea level. We're above the clouds. There's no clouds. So it's just sunshine every day. And those people, they party all the time. I mean, they're Catholic, but they're also like native, like Quechua. So they just mix them together. There's like festivals. I'd go and get a newspaper, as I was saying. There'd be people partying. There's fiestas all the time. And they're just like, you know, they haven't got much, but they are happy because they're just partying constantly. Whilst I was in Vancouver, I was amazed to discover that I've managed to move to a place where it rained more than the UK. It's like the only place on earth. And it's no surprise that grunge comes from Seattle, which is about 50 miles south, because it perpetually rains there all the time as well. So there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, weather, and of course it's sort of obvious, but when you're going through a place, you know, when you don't live there, you can see how it affects people's mentality, you can see how it affects the way they act and their society. So yeah, November, the weather's terrible. It's not going to be decent here for at least probably, you know, 4 or 5 months, unless it snows. So hop on a plane, people. Hop on a plane and go somewhere sunny. There you go. I have no idea who this lady is, but I just love this quote. So she could be someone totally random, because sunshine and happiness for me absolutely go together like fish and chips. And if you've never had fish and chips, I absolutely advise you to go down that road. Cool. So final one, a huge sigh of relief from everyone. Crappy jobs can work wonders. Every time I post this meme, I get like the band saying, do you mind putting a link to us? It's like, I have no idea. I don't know what their music is, but they get loads of love every time we post a meme. But, and I don't know what the deal is when you go abroad, when you do your study abroad, whether you need to work. I worked in a myriad of crappy jobs, my entire life, actually, even when I was a kid in Suffolk. And they made me learn absolutely and appreciate things a lot more. In Canada, I worked in many different things. I worked in a delicatessen place. I worked at a market research place, phoning people up, asking them questions. And I tried my hand at being an extra in films. And Vancouver, if you don't know, is considered the Hollywood of the North. They film loads of stuff in Vancouver, which you think is filmed in the States. So they filmed the X-Files in Vancouver. And I had an agent, and I thought it sounded really fancy. And she phoned me up one day. She's like, Joel, great news. They need extras for the X-Files. I'm like, whoa, this is my time to shine. Fantastic. They said, you need to wear black leather stuff and all black and get down there. And I was like, okay, cool. So I arrived at the studio and I sort of interpreted it. I had this black leather coat. It was sort of like a sort of suit. It was very 70s. It was a bit like, it was a bit sort of John Travolta-y, like Saturday Night Fever-esque. And I had like black, I looked like a sort of disco, I'd come out of the 70s disco in black. That's cool. And I get there, and everyone else has got like studded leather jackets on. There's like death metal. And I'm like, oh, I'm screwed up here big time. So I get there, and the way it works on their film set or TV set is you all sit around and they just pick you. The director comes and goes, you. And I sat there all day, and not once did I get picked for a single scene. And then after about 5 or 6 hours, I'm like, oh man, this is not happening. So I snuck out the back door and never went back on set again. But from that, I got an insight into the wonderful world of film. And I got an insight into, I met some cool people, and I had an interesting experience. And once again, something I would never have done if I had stayed anywhere, if I hadn't been to Vancouver. So yeah, and in Peru, I was meant to be, I was a teacher. I was meant to be a teacher. I had no teacher training whatsoever. I studied history, and I've got a postgrad in creative writing. And I went to go and teach English and art. And I was quite good at art. I was going to go to art college. And where I was teaching is, as I said, quite poor. And the central government totally ignores them because they were part of the Shining, they were Maoist rebels thing. They totally disregarded them. So me and my wife would go around to classrooms and we'd say to the teachers, right, we're going to take the class for an hour and we're going to teach them art and English. And the teacher would go, all right then. And the teacher would go leave and then never come back. They would just leave us all day with the kids. And I'm running out of things to teach. I have no teaching skills whatsoever. So in the end, there's a large percentage of the children in Under Wireless who don't know any English except Ipswich Town football chants. I taught them how to sing football stuff. So that was my one contribution to their English education. But once again, nonetheless, as a result of that, another crappy job, which I did, and I would never have done anywhere else. Got to hang out with children, made loads of friends, taught them about Ipswich Town, and it was a fun experience. So my point being, you go abroad, you live abroad, you have the opportunity to do shitty jobs. Shitty jobs sound by their very nature to be crappy, but ultimately, in my opinion, bad experiences make you a stronger, more resolute person, give you a greater experience of the world and a greater understanding. And as I said, absolutely, I would recommend each and every one of you to take this very unique and special opportunity to go and do a shitty job. If necessary. And the final quote of today: hard work never killed anyone, but why take a chance? And that is a philosophy I think we should all live by. Okay, yeah, and that's it. Good luck. Good luck. Thanks very much. Yeah, good luck. Good Australian. Mic's not working.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Really like the quotes.
Yeah, they're good. One's definitely to live by.
Yeah. Do we have any questions here in the audience? How many years do you live in Finland?
I have lived there. Well, I came here for about 4 years, and then I left to go to Peru. So then I came back, and then I lived in Malaga for a few months, lived in Barcelona for a few months. So in total, about 16 years. I know. That's why every time I say that, I sort of die inside because I know I should be speaking like really fluent Finnish. And when I first arrived here, I met loads of English blokes. And I was like, how long have you been here? And they're like, 10 years. And I was like, how's your Finnish? They said, it's rubbish. I was like, how can you live in a country for 10 years and be so terrible at Finnish? But I'm now living that, basically. I mean, I'm all right. I can convert. I can pretend, but I can't be me in Finnish. Do you know what I mean? I can't really... I have like the sort of, I can have a conversation with like a 10-year-old, but I'm not allowed to by my children because they're like, no, Issa, you sound so bad. My friends will never come around again. Don't speak in Finnish. So yeah, it's terrible. But because of Brexit as well, I really need to get Finnish citizenship. So I shall be trying to learn properly again.
Do we have any other questions?
What, the books or the thing? The books. Yeah, I know it was a bet actually. It's not a very romantic story, but like as I say, I work in digital marketing and I was a copywriter, and I had a friend of mine who was a marketer at Nokia and then Microsoft, and I bet him that I could start a Facebook page for 10,000 people in a month without paying a penny. And that's how Very Finished Problems started. And it was actually snowballed. It was about 20,000 in a month. And I based it off the idea of first world problems. And and I had a Twitter account as well. So yeah, it was just a bet, but it sort of snowballed and it was quite fun to do. And like I started doing more of it. Then I launched the Instagram. Now it's like TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. It's about 850,000 on all the 5 channels. So now I get quite a lot of work. I do a lot of collaborations, and also because of my own work for my clients, I use it as sort of a laboratory, and it's just fun, basically. I mean, sort of, yeah, there's always new things. Of course, most of it, 90% of it is me moaning about the weather. But yeah, that's how it started. And the books really, as I say, I wrote fiction. I had an agent and things were going brilliantly on the fiction front. Then I had a son who I love dearly, but had totally screwed up my writing for about 2 years. Another thing I haven't mentioned, don't have children if you want to have a writing career or go abroad for a while. Lovely, great to have them, but they will screw things up for a while. So yeah, that took about 2 years out. And then I'm writing non-fiction, which is the Very Finished Problems books, is a lot easier than fiction. So I wrote those 5 of those problems, sent them to Gummerus, who like Finnish publisher, and they're like, Bush, yes, we'll take that. And it was like the easiest deal I'd ever signed. So yeah, basically me moaning about the weather is the answer. In short, is the answer to the question. What education do I have? I've got a degree in history from the University of Greenwich. I got a postgrad in creative writing from the London School of Journalism. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, and once again, I think the idea of going abroad to study, it'd be fantastic. I mean, it'd be cool to go back to university, and just when I was at university, I didn't really take it very seriously. It was more just like an opportunity to party and stuff. And I sort of regret that, because I dearly love history, and I'm still a bit of a history nerd. But I really didn't take the opportunities that were given to me when I was at university to really immerse myself in it. So yeah, it's not really very useful history for a career, but still.
Any other questions still? Just before we finish off, I wanted to ask that on a scale from 1 to 10, how annoying is when people are saying to you that dealing with November is just all about the attitude?
Yeah, it's off the scale. It's like 1 million, isn't it? I really would like to believe that's the case. And I always have the idea there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothes. Yes. No, that's like demonstrably not the case. It's like, yeah, I know there's the mindset. I sort of understand where they're coming from, but like, I just like sunshine or light, actually. So when people say that, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's like living in a cave for a month, isn't it? So yeah, it's annoying. But I try and now one of the good things about COVID is I don't get that because I never see anyone. So like, but yeah, annoying. But happily, November's almost done, isn't it? And Christmas will soon be upon us, and hopefully the snow will be here. So yeah, that'd be nice. Yep. Cool.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Get us party on. Yeah, cool.
Thank you, audience.
Yeah, brilliant audience. You've done brilliantly. Nice to be speaking to people rather than a screen. So cool. Thank you very much. Get us party on. Great work. Cool.